Most places didn't survive the outbreak. Cities collapsed in days, towns in weeks. But there's one neighborhood where nothing ever broke. No blood, no screams. Just a quiet rule. Every month, someone walks outside, and something comes to collect them. And after that, the dead leave them alone. They told me not to go east. Not in the way people warn you about danger. There was no urgency in it, no panic, no desperate attempt to stop me. Just quiet certainty. Like I had asked about a place that didn't exist anymore. Nothing out there, one man told me, staring into a fire that had already burned too low. Just empty land. But he didn't look at me when he said it. And I've learned something about people, especially after the world ended. When someone refuses to look at you, it's because they don't want to see your reaction to the truth. So I went east. The road changed first. Less wreckage, fewer bodies, no abandoned vehicles piled up like the world had tried to escape all at once. It was cleaner. Too clean. Nature had started reclaiming everything. Grass pushing through cracks, trees leaning closer to the road. But the silence? That was wrong. Out here, silence is never empty. It's waiting. But this wasn't waiting. This was settled. Like something had already happened and finished. I saw the neighborhood just before sunset. Rows of identical houses, perfect lawns, unbroken windows, curtains moving gently behind glass. It looked like the world hadn't ended here. Like someone had carved out a piece of before and refused to let it go. I stopped at the edge of the street, and I remember thinking, this isn't luck. Luck doesn't trim hedges, doesn't fix roofs, doesn't keep things this still. I stepped in anyway, because curiosity gets you killed out here, but it also keeps you alive. I made it halfway down the block before a door opened. A man stepped out. Older, calm, clean. That was the first thing that didn't sit right. No one out here stays clean unless they're safe. And no one is safe. Stop, he said. Not loud, not threatening, just certain. So I stopped. You're alone? He asked. Yeah. No one followed you? Not that I'm aware of, no. He studied me for a moment, and then nodded. You can come in, he said, but you leave your bag outside. I hesitated. He noticed. If you meant harm, he added, you wouldn't have walked in during daylight. That made sense. Just enough sense to be dangerous. So I agreed. Inside, the house smelled like food. Real food. Warm, cooked, recent. It hit me harder than hunger ever had. Because hunger you can manage. But normal breaks you. There were others inside. Families. Kids. People sitting, talking, moving around like the world wasn't gone. And every single one of them looked at me. Not afraid, not relieved. Just measuring. Like I wasn't a guest. Like I was a variable. You're from the east? A woman asked from the kitchen. Yeah. That got a reaction. Small but real. A glance between them. A pause that lasted just a second too long. You didn't see anything? She asked. Nothing unusual. That wasn't entirely true, but I didn't know what counted as unusual here. The man pulled out a chair. "Sit," he said. I did. He poured me water. Clean, clear. I drank it slowly, trying not to show how much that alone felt like a miracle. "You can stay the night," he said, "but you leave in the morning." "Fair," I said. "And there are rules." Of course there were. "You don't go outside after dark." I leaned back slightly. "Why?" This time the woman turned, and for the first time, I saw fear. Not panic, not terror, just deep, settled fear. "Because they'll see you," she said. They didn't explain, not right away, and I didn't push, because something about this place made it clear. You don't ask questions here. You wait for answers, or you don't get them. That night I stood at the window. I shouldn't have. They told me not to. But curiosity is a disease you don't recover from, and I needed to understand. The street was empty, still, quiet. And then I saw them. At the edge of the neighborhood, dozens of them, zombies, standing perfectly still, not wandering, not searching, not pressing forward, just waiting. No sounds, no movement, just watching. And then I noticed something worse. They weren't looking at the houses. They were looking at the street, like they were expecting something. Or someone. "You shouldn't be watching them." I turned. The man stood in the doorway. "They're not moving," I said. "I know." "Why not?" He stepped into the room, closed the door behind him, and for a moment, he just looked at me, like he was deciding something. And then he said, "Because it's not time yet." I didn't sleep that night, not really. Because once you see something like that, your brain doesn't just let it go. It builds. It connects. It whispers things you don't want to hear. By morning, I already knew the answer. I just didn't want to say it out loud. They gathered in the street just after sunrise. Everyone, no exceptions. That was the first thing that told me this wasn't optional. This wasn't casual. This was ritual. At the center of the circle stood a box, wooden, worn, handled too many times. My stomach dropped. The man stepped beside me. "You should stay back," he said. "What is that?" But I already knew. Lottery. A woman stepped forward, opened the box. Inside were slips of paper, dozens of them. She reached in, pulled one out, and for just a second, her hand shook. And then she read the name. Silence. Heavy. Total. A boy stepped forward, 16 maybe. His face was pale, but he wasn't surprised. That was the worst part. He wasn't surprised. "They all agreed to this?" I whispered. The man nodded. "At the beginning." "At the beginning? What about now?" "They still agree," he said. "They just don't say it out loud anymore." "Stop this," I said, stepping forward. Hands grabbed me, firm, unmoving. "You don't understand. the man said. I understand enough. No, he said quietly. You don't. The boy stepped out of the circle. No one stopped him. No one spoke. No one cried. Because this part had already happened. Not today, but long before. He walked to the edge of the neighborhood, stopped at the line where the pavement changed. And that's when I saw it. I really saw it. They didn't cross that line. Not until he did. The moment his foot touched the other side, they moved all at once. Silent, fast, too fast. They didn't stumble, they didn't wander. They went straight for him, like they knew, like they had been waiting for him. It was over in seconds. No screaming, no chaos, just gone. And just like that, they stopped, turned, and walked back to the edge, to their place, to wait. They only take one, the man said quietly. They always only take the one. I stared at him, horrified. You made a deal? He nodded. Yes. That should have been enough for me to leave. It should have been. But I stayed. Because once your brain starts trying to justify something, it doesn't stop. That night I sat with them, ate their food, listened to them talk about normal things. Gardens, repairs, weather. Like they hadn't just... No. Like they had, and accepted it. How long? I asked. 3 years, the woman said. And it's always worked? Yes. No breaches? No. I swallowed. That's impossible. No, the man said. It's consistent. And if someone refuses? I asked. Silence. That same heavy silence. Then, they don't. That's when I understood. Not fully, but enough. This wasn't survival anymore. This was structure, order, a system. And systems don't like disruption. I didn't sleep again, not really. Because a new thought had taken hold. And this one was worse. They had a system, a rotation, a fairness, a way to survive, and I wasn't part of it. Morning came, and something felt different. People looked at me longer, spoke softer, watched closer, like I had shifted from guest to something else. They're meeting again tonight, the man said. Why? He held my gaze. Because things have changed. That's when it hit me. Not slowly, not gently, like a door slamming shut in my head. The system only works if everyone is a part of it, and I wasn't. You don't have to do this, I said. But even as I said it, I heard how weak it sounded. Because now, I understood them. The box sat in the center again. The same box, the same slips, the same ritual. But this time, there was one more name than before. Mine. And for the first time since I arrived, I realized something that turned my blood cold. They weren't monsters. They weren't evil. They weren't broken. They were working. And now, so was I. If you made it this far, you already know the real question isn't what they did, it's whether you would have done the same. If this story stayed with you, hit like, subscribe, and come back for the next one. Because out there are worse things than the dead. And as always, good night.